You're entering Corsi Nation.
This is Jerome Corsi, and today it is Monday. It's April 7th, 2025. Thank you for joining us here on CorsiNation.com. We're back broadcasting as Corsi Nation, and I'm glad to be doing it. Glad to be more actively into the politics again. As I pointed out many times, the Mueller investigation ended up in the breakup of my 32-year marriage. My wife decided just couldn't handle it anymore, I guess. I had to have an affair and divorce me. So here we are. And I take it as a new beginning. I guess God decided to take her out of my life so I get back to the politics, which I've been doing now for almost 25 years. Actually, probably for my entire life. It's been my passion since I was a kid. At any rate, here we go. We're in the middle right now of a major economic upheaval. It's caused by Donald Trump imposing tariffs and setting back the economy on its feet with returning manufacturing and investment to the United States. Now, I've been writing about this for a long time. By 2011, I published a book, America for Sale. I opposed the Security and Prosperity Partnership in North America, the book called The Late Great USA. That was George W. Bush's attempt to create a North American Union, putting together the United States, Canada, and Mexico. You know, the fundamental problem of globalism and the stupidity of the left is astounding. When you create this global trade and you have countries that are poorer, China, for instance, was really under Nixon, yet very much of a developing country. And you say, okay, you're into, the World Trade Organization, and we've got NAFTA with Mexico, and so all the American companies now can go get cheap labor. Well, clearly, these countries are able to undercut the United States on labor. Our investment goes overseas. We manufacture cars overseas. We manufacture everything, semiconductors, about everything is manufactured overseas because of cheap labor. And China doesn't care. China's got slave labor. Everything they make from tennis shoes through computer chips and computer parts. China does not have any objection to hiring slave labor, period. Hold on. If I touch my phone, it begins to pick up everything I'm saying, copy it out. All right, so here we go in terms of figuring out where we are. China, what Donald Trump is doing is he's setting back the agenda. He's saying, we're going to be on equal footing. If countries are charging us tariffs, we're going to charge them tariffs. Their products are now going to be more expensive coming into the United States. Now, this has produced a massive sell-off on Wall Street. And again, I think the futures are down for today. My guess is that we are going to see a complete breakdown of what's going on in global trade. So right now, the Dow futures sink 1,000 plus points. The S&P could open Monday in a bear market. That's what's being reported right now as we're getting going. The stock market is not open yet. It will be open shortly. Okay, so the nature of this is a corrective, and it's essential that this corrective occur, or else we're headed towards, again, the United States being in a nothing stagnant economy unless we just keep pumping out money. That's what Biden did. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But let's deal with some fundamental realities here. Gold today is trading at $3,026 an ounce. Okay, now that's, again, over the $3,000 mark. Now, I'm telling you, gold's going to go to $4,000 or $5,000 an ounce. And you may not believe me because many who have been listening to me broadcast over the years about when I started this about, I guess 15 or 16 months ago, 18 months ago, saying that we're going to have a historic crash, world crash, and it would lead to an historic gold rush. It's happening now. Okay, so I want everybody to know that the free book, which is exactly that, how the coming global crash will create an historic gold rush. You get it free by calling Swiss America, 1-800-519-6268. I'm going to repeat that number, 1-800-519-6268. Get the book. The book's a short book. It's not a hard read. But what it does is it explains to you how, in fact, we're in another bubble. All we're able to produce with this fiat currency are bubbles. What is this bubble? This bubble is a bubble of credit. Our governments are overextended on credit. Individually, we're overextended on credit. The middle class has been squeezed. And what's going to happen is that when I started talking about this 18 months ago, gold was trading at about $1,800 an ounce. Today, it's at $3,000. You would have gained about $1,200 per ounce had you listened to me 18 months ago. Well, listen now, because it's still a buying opportunity. Gold at $3,000 an ounce. Yes, you missed the low, but it's still a buying opportunity if it goes to $5,000 an ounce, which is, I think, inevitable. Why? Because the United States itself, we're technically broke. What we've done under Biden is pumping money into the economy in a massive way. We got what our deficit is increasing. Our national debt is increasing tremendously, and the deficit sees no end. We're technically bankrupt. The contingent liabilities of the United States there's no way we can pay them. What are the contingent liabilities? The amount of Social Security that's going to be due with an aging population, the amount of Medicare that's due and has to be paid. Well, we're right now getting to the point where one of our biggest budget items is paying the debt on our national debt, paying the interest service. We're at about $1 trillion a year just paying interest on the national debt. Okay, now that's insane. Under this modern monetary theory, which the left loved, we're a sovereign nation, so we can just print money to pay the debt. Okay, well, why then are we borrowing money from the Federal Reserve? Just print the money in the Treasury. Then we don't have any interest payments due. But no, we have to have the Federal Reserve because it's really a private bank, and the bankers are ruling the world. This whole system of the central banks is nothing but corruption. And what we face in Europe is that Europe is saying, oh, well, let's go to a war economy, because if we go to war, we can make money. We can turn our plants into producing munitions. Well, Europe's in far worse condition than the United States right now, because Europe is still into this green hoax nonsense and trying to increase the cost of energy, when in fact you're seeing in Europe people are having extreme difficulty just paying their normal bills. And Europe is saying, oh, we're going to send troops to Ukraine. It's a joke. There's no way Europe is going to be able to send troops to Ukraine, because it could be the nature of our downfall, the idea that we're just going to militarize and go against Russia. That's not going to happen. Basically, we've got to come to terms with this war and settle this war. Now, Chris, I want you to come on and comment about these things, because I'm encouraging people to look at Swiss America on our website. Think about putting some of your money into a self-directed IRA so you can begin buying in your retirement savings some gold and silver. If you don't do that right now, you're going to be missing an historic opportunity. And you're going to see your investments in the stock market are going to be decreasing in value. And if you've got mutual funds in your IRA, you almost certainly are invested in the stock market. Okay, and so therefore take a hard look at what your IRAs, your 401ks are doing. Call Swiss America and get some advice. You don't have to be a millionaire to buy gold. Buy some gold and it will go up in value compared to your fiat currency, which is going to be declining in value. Now, there are some excellent articles out. I'm going to, Chris, after we cover this one, I want you to come on to this one. This is on Zero Hedge. And what they're basically saying on Zero Hedge is that the Biden administration had essentially a Ponzi scheme going. And their Ponzi scheme was just increase the federal debt, increase the number of government programs, hire more government employees. Okay, so it's easy to keep pumping up the economy. And this is what our Secretary of the Treasury is saying right now, and he's right. Secretary of Treasury Bessent said to Tucker Carlson, it'd be easy to keep pumping up the economy, borrowing a lot of money, creating a lot of government jobs. Okay, well, that's a formula for bankruptcy. And Trump is saying you got to take the medicine. Medicine is tariffs. The medicine is getting investment back into the United States and getting jobs back into the United States. Okay, Chris, why don't you give us some comments on this? I want to get a discussion on this going.
Well, a lot of things can be discussed about the tariffs. It's coming from a lot of perspectives here. The left, it's funny. The left always whines about the billionaires making too much money. That changed from millionaires and billionaires, but you know where I'm going. The funny thing is, the billionaires that they speak of are the ones that pretty much own a lot of the stock market. Now, hear me out here. So Trump's plan at this moment makes the, let's say, the stock owning billionaires, the more wealthy types, take a bit of a hit, while the middle class will, if this works, see prices come down in the future. You already have gasoline prices, the food prices, or especially the eggs, they've been coming down. And you have countries also now making deals when it comes to the tariffs, rebalancing or at least making the trade imbalance a little bit more tolerable. And then hopefully this could work by either bringing manufacturing back to the US or making things more affordable for the middle class. And the left's protesting this all weekend when they were acting out on Saturday, if you remember this.
Well, you know, the whole thing
It's what they wanted.
yeah, it's what they wanted. I mean, you know, the whole thing is right now a mess. And it's a mess because of what Obama has done. And what going back to Obama, even Clinton, opening the borders, having our voter rolls be a disgrace, encouraging non-citizens to vote, sending our jobs overseas. Every one of these Democratic presidents has been anti-American, and that's been the problem. Chris?
Well, it's true. It's true. It's not only anti-American, but it's basically designed to weaken the country. I've said this several times on this program and others. The globalists like Klaus Schwab and of course Barack Obama and others, they 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 see that the only way to balance the world, to give the elites that power, is not to strengthen third world nations and make everybody equal. That wouldn't be good for them. No, the idea is to kneecap the free world. Make sure you take away people's liberties. You put them in you put the middle class in some kind of economic panic, and then they can divide everybody and take over. This was stopped in recent years by a lot of countries, and of course they're fighting back at this point. You see, they're going to the part. They're going as far as jailing anybody who runs against the left at this point, or anybody who runs against the globalists. You got Le Pen, who's been arrested. You got Gorgescu of Romania, who's already been thrown in jail. Boris Borsellino. I always mispronounce his last name. Yair Borisino. Again, Borsellino. Yes, pardon the mispronunciation. I'm trying to go fast here. He was thrown in jail, and they tried to throw Trump in jail. They have another guy in Spain, a communications director, who spoke out about immigration. He was arrested. They're pulling their guns out on this one. And now, of course, the media is trying to make everything look bad with the tariffs. Everything, like you said, is all in one big anti-American and anti-Western culture ball.
Well, it's got to come to an end. Now, we got a couple of clips from the weekend. I mean, I was watching these protests in D.C. These are rent-a-mobs. These mobs, all the money is going into, so the Democrats, you know, take USAID and they get the agencies. The agencies give grants. They give them to, you know, they pump up money. They give it to the NGOs, non-government organizations. Soros has got tons of money. Left has huge gobs of money. And it's just right out of the Treasury coming through the agencies, through the, you know, the EPA and the Department of Education, all the rest of them pumping money that come into these protest groups. And these protest groups are simply doing nothing except making money protesting. Whether they believe in these causes or not, this is a job. Chris?
Yeah, want to get a load of this guy here? One of the protesters. These people may be paid. A lot of these people still don't even know what the heck they're protesting.
So what makes Trump a fascist? What makes Trump a fascist?
He does things without
You gotta talk loud. I don't have my mic on.
Oh, I'm not really into interviews.
Sorry?
He just doesn't. He just does everything he wants, and not following laws or he's a convicted felon. That's all I know.
That's all they have, and you see the people in the background with their coordinated chants. In New York City, these perfectly manufactured signs were handed to people just to protest with. It's for anybody who can see through this, it should be embarrassing for them.
Well, I mean, I think we're going to be starting to see a lot of this come out much more now. I think even with the J6ers, I think we're going to get some of the videos of all the mobs that were bussed in, changing their clothes to become Trump supporters so that they could get out and cause the violence they wanted to have happen, to call this an insurrection. Now, the insurrectionists are the Democrats. They're the ones who want to get rid of the Constitution. They want to get rid of they want to wreck the economy. The left has this insane idea that it can create its new utopia only if it destroys what's going on here, if it destroys the current structure. And I've been pointing this out in books. Just show the cover of the book I wrote on the truth about neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy, where I go through the evolution of this neo-Marxism and this Maoism to where they've just become negation. And they create the critical race theory because they know it is dystopian. They know it's going to produce dysfunction. Well, they want breakdown. They want the society to collapse. They want the government to collapse. Then they think they can come out of it with their new totalitarianism, which will be their utopia. And we're going through a very dark period of time where they just about succeeded. I mean, it's almost, they had control of the House and the Senate in 2024. They had control of the media. They had control of the military. They had control of the FBI. Why they allowed an election to occur, I still don't know. But they did, and Trump won. So we got a reprieve. But that reprieve is going to be short-lived if we don't take action, and Trump is taking action. He's hurting the Democrats where they care about, in their pocketbooks. Without money, these people are nothing but an angry old mob that wants to destroy. And I think there we go. There's ice cream, and we're finding out he mentally incompetent. Exactly who the Democrats wanted as president, somebody who was figurehead, mentally incompetent. From behind the scenes, they could direct their destruction. I want to play this new Al Green tape, which I think is kind of telling as well. It goes on a little bit long, but let's play it for a couple of minutes and see what Al Green is saying.
I have to re-cue that up. Give me a few seconds here. There's a little issue with it. Kind of the video kind of froze on me. So give me a few minutes to give me a few seconds to pull this up again.
Okay, that's all right. Just take your time. But the point is, again, when you take a look at the speech that Donald Trump gave to the joint session of Congress, State of the Union or not, you see these Democrats sitting there as an angry bunch. They couldn't even applaud a kid who wanted to be a cop, a kid who had gone through a health crisis and survived. These people are just angry. They have hate in their souls. They want to divide. They want to make men into women, women into men. I mean, these people are nuts. Okay, let's play the Al Green.
There will be no third term. No third term. No third term. No third term. No third term.
He's got the cane.
The guy's cane, yeah. He's
get off my lawn.
More important than this, dear brothers and sisters, and I say brothers and sisters because there really is but one race, and that's the human race.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We're all related. We're all related.
Okay. Stop it right there. I mean, so okay, always got the race card. Always playing the race card. Okay, so he's mentioning that we're all one race. Well, again, when the Democrats do this, they're heightening divisions, or they're saying that the Republicans are racist. Okay, that's a subtle message here, and it's this is again is that the enemy of the Department of Justice was, white supremacy, racism. Okay, so if the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, which basically is an attack on white men. So everything the Democrats do is based on division and hate and separating this group against that group. If the Democrats, since Lyndon Johnson, have been proposing a great society, they're going to reduce poverty. We have as much poverty or more than we had when Lyndon Johnson was president. We have more racial hatred. I said Obama was going to create more racial division in the United States. He did. These people are making money on racial division. They're getting rich. I'd like the Department of Justice to investigate every millionaire in Congress and see how they got their money. Every single one of them. And where do they get that money? Who paid them? How cheaply were they bought? Were they bought by China? Were they bought by Big Pharma? Who bought them? Who bought Al Green? Why is Pocahontas worth $67 million? Okay, so play a little bit more of this, because again, I think it goes into the complete bankruptcy of this leftist message, and the Democrats are committing suicide at this point. And hand them a microphone, let them destroy the Democratic Party. There's a Democratic Communist Party is what this is. Play a couple more minutes, Chris.
A message that should say to him, he may not finish this term. He may not finish this term.
Oh,
So he's going to do more impeachment.
He may not finish this term. He may not finish. He may not finish this term. Here's why.
And look at his shirt, censored, not silenced. They're the ones who want to censor.
and nobody censored him. They censored him.
Because you are now sowing the seeds that can lead to a Congress being elected that will have the courage to not only have articles of impeachment filed, but to impeach him a third time. Impeach him.
Okay, that's enough of this
time.
guy.
What a fool.
I mean, if that's all they can talk about is impeachment, okay, what do the Democratic Party stand for? Doing sexual change operations on children, allowing Venezuelan gangs into the United States to rape and kill and do all the other horrible things the Venezuelan gangs do.
Dumbing down the public school system.
Dumbing down the public school system and making sure that we don't have kids who are educated in critical thinking, real critical thinking, not racial critical thinking, not Marxism.
Yeah.
Okay, and all the things the Democrats have to do with death and darkness. Have euthanasia. Do us all a favor and kill yourself. There's too many people on Earth. We need to depopulate. Big Pharma. Okay, Fauci and diseases. All the things that they've done across the board. When we see these things going on, we know that what we're dealing with is an ideological party that's bent on destroying the United States, destroying all that's good about this country, and creating this internal division, which only produces the kind of disorder intellectually that the Democrats think precede the fall of a society, breakdown of a society, breakdown of marriages. My marriage breaking up after 32 years. Coming after me because they thought I had a connection to Julian Assange, which I did not have. I was the last witness in their Russian collusion hoax. They thought I could do the link between Roger Stone and Julian Assange. It's all nonsense. I refused to take their plea deal. Said, go ahead and put me in prison the rest of my life with the jury in Washington that'll convict me. But I'm not going to lie to stay out of prison. I'm not going to swear to a lie to keep myself out of prison before God. I'm not going to lie. They never indicted me. But they set upon do everything they could to wreck your life, wreck your career, make sure you're broke, make sure you're into nothing but fear, depression. And our side has this fear. Otherwise, we would be opposing the Democrats on the voter fraud. Spent all weekend on the voter fraud There's things going to be coming out now about Wisconsin. And Wisconsin, I think, is one of the most corrupt states in the country. And I think it begs for criminal investigation. I also am encouraging Pam Bondi to do her job by setting up task forces. Where's the task force in the Department of Justice on Russian collusion hoax? The left was very good at task forces. They had task force on Hurricane Fire, Russian collusion. They give it a code name. And then they assign Department of Justice lawyers, FBI, to work on that project until they get grand juries, and grand juries then lead to indictments. So the process is very simple. Task force, assign lawyers from the DOJ, FBI, get subpoena power, investigate, call a grand jury, bring people before the grand jury, get indictments, go to trial, prosecute, and put in prison. And this needs to be done in any number of different areas. Where's the task force on the Clinton Foundation? Where's the task force on voter integrity? Where's the task force on why these senators and congressmen are so rich? Where's the task force on, various of the congressmen who are just completely out of control and launching hoax after hoax after hoax? Where's the task force on the CIA's involvement in the drug trade, the CIA's involvement in pedophilia, and the sex trade with children? Where's that task force? We don't have task forces. We're not going to get indictments. The FBI and the Department of Justice are just going to drift. And by the way, for all the people that Donald Trump has fired, it's not enough. Close down the Department of Education, terrific. Close down a bunch more. Why do we need the Department of Environmental Protection? Okay, all they've done is impose regulation after regulation after regulation that hurts business, that it induces insane policies. Where's the task force on Solyndra, on all the money spent on these green energy hoaxes? Who'd it go to? Obama's fundraising, his bundlers, the people who raised him a lot of money. They bought those jobs. And then they take Solyndra, they have all these solar panels, which are now junk. The Solyndra goes bankrupt and nobody goes to prison. Okay, so this is the type of situation we've got where the government is just basically out of control. And with the out of control government that we have had, you get it packed in by Georgetown leftists and liberals who are woke, and we get an agenda that's woke shoved down our throats. Okay, so this has all got to stop. And it's got to stop now with a Department of Justice that does its job and begins to investigate the crimes that were committed. I wrote a book called Partners in Crime. There's nothing legitimate about the Clinton Foundation. They didn't even follow the rules for forming a foundation. They didn't do their accounting correctly. They stole money out of Haiti. They stole money out of India. They stole money out of Africa. Clinton Foundation was two grifters, Hillary and Bill, selling political favors to oligarchs around the world. There's Partners in Crime. Where's the task force on the Clinton Foundation in the Department of Justice? These are things that need to be investigated. These people need to be brought to justice. We didn't get to the point we are without official corruption. And I think the American people are tired of it. In Wisconsin, this leftist judge, I want to give you some background on this leftist judge here in a second, but this leftist judge was elected in the Supreme Court of Wisconsin when, by 500,000 votes, a constitutional amendment was passed. The need for a constitutional amendment was voted in by 500,000 vote majority. Now, how did that happen? And then this judge, whose name is Crawford, Susan Crawford, who is completely woke. Okay, so who supported? There she is. Who supported Susan Crawford? Well, you have drag queens and billionaires who were rallying for her. The drag queen was Bianca Lynn Breeze. It was a drag queen alter ego of Brandon Rounds, and he led a drag bingo fundraiser for Susan Crawford. Okay, so I'll just read the beginning of this article. This is an article that was in the Federalist. It was authored by M.D. Kittle. Just 3 weeks before Wisconsin's critical Supreme Court election, most voters don't know who the candidates are, according to a Marquette University Law School poll. But the drag queens, it seems, are well acquainted with Dane County Judge Susan Crawford, the far-left contestant in the April 1 election, which will decide whether liberals and conservatives control the court, perhaps which party controls the United States. Okay, why did they say that? Because the Democrats in Wisconsin have a gerrymandering scheme that the Supreme Court has already refused to hear. Now, with Susan Crawford on it, they'll hear the Democrats' gerrymandering scheme, and Democrats will pick up 2 more seats in the U.S. House in Wisconsin. That's the whole point of the gerrymandering. Okay, so Crawford's campaign is packed with millions of dollars from wealthy leftists, including George Soros, Illinois Governor Pritzker, LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman. So Crawford nearly doubled her conservative opponent in terms of money, who is this Judge Brad Schimmel, former Wisconsin Attorney General. Okay, so millions into that campaign. He wins by 250,000 votes, whereas the amendment to have a voter ID required in Wisconsin won by 500,000 votes. Yet the woman who will strike down that amendment wins by 250,000 votes. How is that possible? Okay, so these are the kinds of elections that need to be investigated. And we found algorithms, shocking algorithms in Wisconsin. And I'm going to begin reporting on them this week with articles I intend to submit to American Thinker. We need criminal investigations. The time for just writing about this and complaining about this is over. If we go into the midterm elections with the algorithms still in the databases, you're going to find that the Democrats steal the midterm elections. Take a look at our website, God's 5 Stones. It's right there. It's G-O-D, no apostrophe for the S, no apostrophe. 5, you spell out 5, stones are plural, God's 5 Stones. And what we have there is a website that lists Dr. Andrew Paquette's work on the algorithms in numerous states, including New York, New Jersey, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the battleground states. I've got all the videos from interviews I've done explaining how these algorithms work. The algorithms were not used in the 2024 presidential election, but they were used and continue to be used in the down ballot elections. I think at least I think 20 House seats were stolen in 2024, maybe 5 Senate seats. The algorithms allow the creation of false voters who yet get legitimate state IDs such that they can be voted and counted as if they were real voters. They're not real voters. Democrats don't care about honesty. They care about winning. They care about destroying America. They're good at it. Okay, I want to end with 1 or 2 more comments. We don't hear much about Ukraine. We don't hear much about the Middle East anymore. Well, again, neither one of these is the left reporting on, because, again, what's going on in Ukraine right now is that Zelenskyy is making a fool of himself, going around begging for money to continue a war that can't be won without a nuclear war. Zelenskyy thinks he's getting those territories back. He's wrong. He's not getting them back. So therefore, we're in a situation where Zelensky's lost, but yet he wants to continue the fraud. How much money do you think has been laundered through Ukraine? How many millions has Zelenskyy gotten? All the reports we've had, and we had Mike Nova, who was Ukrainian and close to Zelenskyy, coming to the United States and doing a video with us saying, this is a crackhead. They're doing more cocaine than Mike Nova was completely astounded at how much cocaine they were doing. Okay, so Russia is also wanting to end this war. And at some point or other, Zelensky's got to understand that we're not going to continue funding it. We're not going to continue providing the arms. And if NATO wants to go into putting French troops or Italian troops or British troops fighting in Ukraine, it's suicide. They're not equipped. They're not ready. They won't be ready for 10 years. Even if they tried to have an army, these European countries are incapable of fielding one that can compete with Russia. It's foolhardy. And if they want to go down that path, then Donald Trump should just quit funding NATO. We don't need NATO to be going to war with Russia. NATO was designed to prevent Russia from invading Western Europe, which was a threat after World War II, but is today not really very much of a threat at all. Ukraine is a different issue. The western part of Ukraine, Zelenskyy, Kiev, they're neo-Nazis. And the dirty truth is that Zelenskyy and before him Poroshenko, they were sending neo-Nazi brigades into these two Russian-speaking provinces to kill Russian Orthodox priests and also to suppress any freedom fighters who wanted those two provinces to be independent nations. Russia finally had enough of it and intervened. But the problem is this was all pushed going back to 2013 by Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, by the State Department that was influenced by George Soros, and by our color revolutions that we conducted in Ukraine, culminating in the Maidan rebellion, which threw out Yanukovych, who was a duly elected president in Ukraine, but favorable to Russia. All we've been fed is propaganda and lies by the CIA and the mainstream media. The truth is that the Biden administration was supporting Iran to develop weapons. It was getting Iran back in the oil business, and that led again to Iran funding Hamas, Hezbollah, and the October 7th attack. Correcting this dark world that was left and created over decades by the Democrats is not going to be easy, but in the end, it will be successful. In the end, God always wins. God's going to win here too. And as dark as all this looks, I continue to remind people that if we get on our knees and pray, as we're admonished to do, 2 Chronicles 7:14, God will hear our prayer and heal our land. The economic crisis is coming, and today people are going to be shocked at how much they could lose their IRAs and 401ks, their stock holdings. It's going to be trillions of dollars coming out of the stock market this week. I think it will go down to another 1,000 points today, and I do think it's not going to stop anytime near soon. And Donald Trump, I don't think, is going to relent on the tariffs. They need to be done. We need to get jobs back in the United States and investment back in the United States. It's going to be painful. When all these bubbles burst, it's not pleasant, but it's necessary. Dr. Jerome Corsi, today is Monday, April 7th, 2025. We're going to be podcasting on CorsiNation.com every weekday. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. God bless.